The Pit Press Podcast.
Reinholz launches from downtown. No. Van Horn, no. And that's it. New Mexico wins it.
Kenny Thomas blocks. Gibson hustling down. He has some room. And he gets it.
Oh, long three. He got it. Oh, my goodness. Kendall Williams from 35 feet. For the win. Snell. Got it. He got it. Wow. With 1.8 seconds remaining.
And New Mexico's going to dribble out the clock. The Lobos three-peat as conference tournament.
We're going to keep this rodeo going because I think this is a massive, massive, massive game for those of you listening probably this morning. And as I always do, I'm not good with continuity. Hey, my name is Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Podcast. This is our own preview, not a crossover like The Simpsons or Family Guy. So welcome, and for those of you probably listening, good morning. As always, I'm joined by Three Stooges or the gang. I'll head over to From the Bay Don't Play, and I won't give your accolades this time, Rick. Hey, from the Bay Area, Mr. Richard Thompson, how are you this morning? How are you this evening?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me back on to talk about this game some more in the sold-out crowd tomorrow at the Pit. Should be exciting. So thanks.
I'm gonna beat this to the death. I'm gonna be looking for your mom in turquoise tomorrow at the red and white out.
She assured me she bought a new red Lobo shirt just for the game, so my family will be there.
Perfect. All right, and you can follow him at NM Sports Capper. Hey, and don't forget to follow Rick at R Thompson 1050 on Twitter. I think he changed his profile pic from the New Mexico Slam logo, but you can follow him there. At NM Sports Capper, Mr. Jacob Neff. Hey, man, how are you doing?
Doing good, Ryan. Can't wait for the game tomorrow. Got some playoff football. Should be a good weekend.
Yes, it should be. And from Silver City, New Mexico, he is the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970. Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how are you doing?
Hey, you know what? Finally warmed up a little bit out here. It's a bad snowstorm and melted and stayed in the room all day long, man. It's a cold one, so I'm doing well, man. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Instead of the opening line to the Santana Rob Thomas song, it's a hot one, man. It's a cold one. It sounds like that when you were texting me, it sounded more like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota than Silver City, New Mexico. I didn't realize it got that cold down there.
Just once in a while. It's the first time I've seen a snowstorm like this in my 4 years as a voice here, but hey, it happens.
All right, our next guest, we're happy to have him on and coming out of the bullpen last minute. Ed, appreciate this. Played at Oxnard College, College of Santa Fe, a 4-year starter, career 16-point average. He played the small forward position, his biggest highlight. And I apologize. Starter in LA City Schools versus CIF All-Star game in Los Angeles. And he's here joining us now, Mr. Dwayne Rogers. Sir, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. And thanks for the invite, guys. This is a treat.
Give your thoughts on that. Give your thoughts on what you're looking forward to the game tomorrow. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh no. Well, I know it's going to be hyped. Obviously, with the game already a sellout, everybody in Albuquerque is excited, and this is the best team to come to the Pit so far this year. So they're looking to see that Lobos go out there and give a big effort. I'm really surprised that the Lobos are already favored in this game. Actually, the line has gone from 2 to 3. Hoping not steal anybody's thunder, but the line actually has increased. And with the level of competition that San Diego State brings, I hope the Lobos can match it.
You did. Jacob and I like this guy already. You hit with the line. I was going to drop that first. It's minus 3.5 according to Caesar Sportsbook. The over under. I think I got wrong. It was 150. There's a typo that I found, 2 typos that I found on my ticker there. It was 150 is the over under, and if you're looking to bet the Lobos money line, it's minus 159, and I think it was San Diego State plus 130. So those are your odds. Rick, I'm going to start with you. We hit on it with Aztec Breakdown, and it's something that we've talked about repeatedly the last 2 or 3 weeks. Free throw shooting. UNM has to make their free throws, because this is in the same week we talked about Washington against Michigan in a college football game where Washington had to play a perfect football game. They did not. They got beat by 20 points. They finished second. My point with that is I think that UNM has to play a near perfect game, even though they're at home and it's a quote unquote pit game.
Yeah, there's a few things in regards to free throw shooting I wanted to hit on. I guess first for the Lobos, they're shooting at about 69% on the year. And as we hit on the San Diego State podcast last night, against Colorado State, when we really lost the lead is where we had 4 to 5 possessions where we had good possessions. We drew fouls. We didn't knock down very many of the free throws, and that Colorado State lead grew. So we can afford to have possessions where we get good looks and then end up with no points at the stripe. On the other side of the ball, Ledee is going to get to the line a lot, and he's a pretty good shooter. I believe high 70s there, and as a team they're around 73%, so they're a little bit better and more reliable than us, and their point guard is struggling right now, but I think he'll come around, Butler, that is. So for us, since we don't shoot a lot of threes and we don't make a lot of threes, most of our points come off twos. We can't afford to give up points at the line. And just a quick story from me, was a junior playing at St. Pius, wasn't getting much playing time. Our star player, Roman Andrade, got fouled, and Damian Segura, for some reason, selected me to go in cold and shoot the 2 free throws. And for some reason, I decided to give myself the sign of the cross at the line, which I never done in my whole life at the free throw line. I was so nervous. I missed both free throws and got pulled out of the game and didn't play the rest of the game. And the point of that is it comes down to routine and mental preparation, right? So these guys should be working on the same routine over and over again until, they're making the percentage that I think they need to be over 70%. And I'm sure Dwayne will tell you, free throws just come down to working on it in preparation.
Well, I'll go back to you, Dwayne. What do you think about the Lobo free throw struggles? And I've kind of asked this, and I don't mean it to be cliche. I've asked this on previous podcasts. It seems that it can, at least right now, when it's a focal point and us members of the media and fans are talking about it, it feels like it can suck some momentum. But how important are those free throws for UNM in a game of this magnitude tomorrow?
Well, it's as though you give away a possession, especially if you missed the front end of a 1-and-1. It's as though you worked hard, you did everything you could, you got in position, you shot a good shot and got fouled, and then you gave the possession away. And you just can't do that. You have to average at least a point a possession or more in a basketball game. So free throws against a good team it's the difference. It's the difference between winning and losing.
We've already seen that, and I think it was Colorado State. Ed, I'm going to go to you, and you had mentioned something to me in text message, and this is true. And we talked about this with UNM football, and I'm not trying to phone home the football part, but the basketball culture. San Diego State has established a winning culture. This is a good chunk of a team that was the national runner-up last year. UNM is trying to establish that again with Patino. Just your thoughts on why you sent me that. I wanted to hear a deeper dive into that.
Okay, when you talk about culture, how many years of success has Dutcher had, and before that, Steve Fisher? So they have a winning culture there. They went to the national championship last year. New Mexico is trying to establish. They had a winning season last year. Patino hasn't been here as long as Coach Dutcher has, or had the impact that Coach Fisher did at San Diego State. So UNM is trying to get where San Diego State is. Now, we mentioned it's a pit. Dave Bliss, say what you want about Dave Bliss, and I have, and I will, but he would always call these pit games, right? We need a pit game. He would say, this is going to be a pit game. But I think a couple of us have said San Diego State will not be intimidated by the crowd. They've been through that. They've been to a national championship. So UNM is trying to establish a basketball culture that San Diego State already has. And that's a quantum leap. It's a couple of leaps here. This game is important because, as Dwayne said, the city and everybody else is hyped up about it. They're coming off a pretty bad loss. Is this a must-win game? I'd almost say yes. And then they got Utah State on Tuesday. So that's what I meant by establishing that culture, that winning culture. San Diego State has it, and UNM has, some leaps and strides to go. And tomorrow would be a good step in that direction. And this is a very good San Diego State team. And, you mentioned, along with Dwayne and Rick and Jacob, about free throws and fundamentals, things like that win you or lose you basketball games. As I mentioned last night, Midwestern State against Western New Mexico, 26 of 28 from the charity stripe. They missed 2 free throws all night long on the road. And, again, Western New Mexico doesn't have the fan base that the Pit does. So those free throws and things like that are real important. But that's what I meant about establishing a winning culture, Ryan. UNM is trying to get where San Diego State is at. And that's, a couple quantum leaps away. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Makes me want to watch episodes of Quantum Leap with Scott Bakula, who also in one of my I don't know why I'm digging in on college football. I guess I'm having withdrawal since the college football season's over, and I love college basketball. But Necessary Roughness, which is one of my favorite movies to watch at the end of July and August with the program. I think, Rick, you've seen the program, right? Yeah.
It's a
all right.
classic film.
Yes, it is, about a deleted scene about lying in the middle of the street on oncoming traffic, using steroids, domestic violence, great things. All right, we're going to get back to college basketball now. Jacob, one of the things that you had mentioned to me, and this is crucial, especially from a UNM team that does not shoot very well, that we've learned that does not shoot very well. Who's going to win the 3-point battle? I just want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge thing tomorrow because these teams aren't necessarily great 3-point shooters. In fact, San Diego State has a worse percentage from 3 than the Lobos do, and it's just by a couple points. But, we've talked on this podcast multiple weeks now that they can't buy a shot from behind the arc, right? And even when they didn't hit a 3-pointer. They hit 1 3-pointer against UNLV, and they hit 2 in the final minute. So you're going to have, if you're going to take those shots, and they need to, because you can't keep getting outscored from the 3-point line by 5 or 6 made threes per game, because that, it was bigger. It was a bigger disparity against UNLV, and you saw what happened there. It just ended up getting extended. So I think we've really got to focus on, this goes back to running an offense, making sure that you get the right shots, working off ball screens, motion offense, whatever it takes to get them open. Because, tomorrow, we know what San Diego State's plan is going to be, and that's going to be to get the ball down low to Jalen Ledee and get these guys in foul trouble because of the lack of post depth that the Lobos have, right? So for us, the equalizer is going to be the 3 in the game, right? And we're going to have to make some of those, and it's just going to be an interesting part of the game to see who wins that battle, right? The Lobos score most of their points from inside the arc and at the free throw line. So that's going to be one of the key deciding factors tomorrow. Who can make the 3 and who does it and executes it better.
Ed, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to go to Dwayne after this because, I always talk to you about post play. Just your thoughts on Jaden Ledee and what can this kind of lack of depth and size, how can UNM control this?
Foul trouble. That's a key thing. We remember against UNLV, we had UNM had several players with 2 fouls. Toppin can't afford to get in foul trouble. Then you go to Amzil, and Dwayne knows this. He played the post position or forward. He's not a post defender. Yeah, we saw that. But you know what? In all defense of Amzil, so did Nelly. They got cooked, man, underneath against UNLV. Boone had their way with them. They didn't send a double team until 3rd or 4th possession after Boone had about 4 straight baskets. They didn't send a double team, which I was a little bit surprised about. So I would think you'd see a double on Ledee, but you got to be careful, because your guy that you had on last night on the Aztec breakdown was very concise about how San Diego State runs their offense. So you have to be very careful of the double team. They're pretty good in their half court offense, as he described. They don't bring 2 big men anymore. Their lane's a little bit more wide open now without men. So they're free to operate on the perimeter a little bit more. So I think you have to be careful there. Nelly did not have a good game defensively against UNLV either. And when you put Amzil in there to defend, that's not his forte. We haven't seen. Maybe we'll see Quentin Webb. And I think one of the things too with Coach Patino said they need sometimes to start the second half better. Does he start? Maybe does he go to Quentin Webb looking for a spark off the bench? Try something different if it's not working. But I think as far as the post defense, their foul trouble is the key. Having Toppin stay on the floor. He sat a lot of the first half against UNLV. They need him out there, and hopefully Nelly has a better game defensively. When bigger guys come with good post games, he struggles. He struggled against UNLV. So I'm hoping that this game is a little bit better. But I think the key is to stay out of foul trouble.
I'm just watching, and to backtrack about the three, I'm watching Iowa, which I know is Big Ten basketball, 13 of 33 from three. And I'm all over the place. Dwayne, you played small forward. What do you see the keys to success, kind of piggybacking off what Ed just said about the post play?
Well, I'm going to sound like a repeat, but when I watch the Lobos play, especially Joseph, sometimes he's on the wrong side. He's defending the wrong side. He should maybe be on the high side and make that pass go up in the air so he can get some help from the backside defense. They don't seem to always dig in when the ball goes into the post. The players, like you said, Ed was saying, no one's there. And Joseph is on an island. I kept seeing UNLV getting dunks. And that's just unacceptable as a college basketball team. You have to be able to defend a whole lot better. And you also have to be able to defend the entry pass. They're making it way too easy. The Lobos run three small guards. They have got a little bit of an issue because they put what they believe is their five best players on the floor. You got both point guards in the game at the same time, and you have no one coming off the bench to bring that extra energy that Dent and House bring. So they've got a little bit of a quandary because of how they structure their offense. But another thing that Ed and I had talked about earlier this week is that they have poor closeouts. There was one play I saw the other night. The kid hit about three pointers in a row, and then they had two players fly to friendly skies, and they didn't close out. You've got to close out properly. So those are fundamentals. And we expect more from Coach Pitino in being able to get these guys to play better fundamental basketball. But overall, I know I'm jumping around, but I'd like to see better height on the floor, better length on the floor. You can't have three small guards at 6'2" and under. You have a young freshman playing the other post spot and another player who sometimes is in the wrong position. They need to maybe make some substitutes for defensively rather than just offensively.
Rick, I'm going to go to you because you did. I know you always talk about the battles you had because we had no size at St. Pius. But I mean, just your thoughts on that, because you've played against, big guys and how hard it can be. And when you're undersized, just difficult.
Yeah. Piggybacking off what Ed was saying, and Dwayne also, if one of those two starters of Nelly or JT gets in foul trouble early, then it's just going to be problematic for us. And we've seen that almost every game that's occurred. And I give it up to Amzil. He's given the best he can, but he doesn't have enough body weight or enough strength to hang with the posts in this conference, unfortunately. So, I think Dwayne makes a good point. They got to change the coverage on the post defense. You got to front sometimes. Maybe bring Toppin from the weak side to help on that entry pass, or whoever's on the weak side post. Yes. Maybe slide over sometimes. And I like what Dwayne is also saying about, changing the lineup for defense sake. Everyone's been talking about changing the lineup because the offense is, stalling. But I think he makes a good point about possibly adding some length of Baker or Washington in the starting lineup, and, making those entry passes tougher, because I think I hit on it yesterday. What the Mountain West guards have been doing to our guards is pressuring them at the top. And you're going to see Butler and Trammell tomorrow in San Diego State really pressure our guards and, try to throw them out of the offense from the very beginning at the top of the key. So I think we need to try to emulate some of that early ball pressure and not let them get into their offense, because once Ledee gets it, he's averaging 22 points a game. He's a decent decision maker, 1.5 assists a game, and really good from the line. So if we can throw him out of whack and possibly even get him in foul trouble, I think, that might be a path for our victory.
Jake, I'm going to go to you because you had mentioned keeping the emotions in check. And we have a player on the team who said he likes watching wrestling and name dropped his famous wrestler as Randy Orton, which, again, as I said, wasn't the biggest wrestling fan, but it's very disappointing that the youth, and now we're starting to sound old. Ed, I'm not going down that road conversation tonight, but Macho Man Randy Savage, Steve Austin, and he said Randy Orton. It just, I don't know. But you were talking about keeping your emotions in check. And how do they do that? Again, once again, against an opponent like San Diego State and a well-coached opponent by Brian Dutcher at San Diego State.
Well, you know, the thing's going to be is that they can't get too caught up in the moment, you know, and that's what happens with these guys on a consistent basis is they don't know how to understand that you live one possession at a time, right? You can't remember what happened 3 possessions ago and then continue to let it drag into every possession. And that happens a lot with the Lobos, and especially with someone like House, right? And we've talked about it on the podcast, like we always say, because this is getting into mid-season now. But the team really goes as House goes, right? When he's feeling himself, it's great. The team has a lot of energy. When he starts ripping his jersey off and he starts, elbowing people in the back of the head with the ref right there in front of him, it just starts to melt, and you can just see it. You can see the players turn around and have their body language is like, what is he doing? And that doesn't help when you're already struggling, right? So tomorrow it's going to be a heavyweight fight. You're going to have to deliver a punch. You're going to get a punch delivered back to you. You're going to have to respond. They're going to respond. And if you let the run or the game get out of hand and you start to show your emotions, they're going to eat you alive with the experience that they have, with the amount of depth that they have on that team. That's something that that I think gets overlooked with San Diego State teams a lot, is they have a great starting lineup, but they know, and they can do it almost every year. They just rotate these guys in off the bench. And even though they may not be prolific scorers, they just know what their role is, right? And that's what you have to have. So, tomorrow, and let's pray to God this doesn't happen, Mountain West officials, please let them play in this game. For God's sakes, I'm sick of seeing 20 fouls in the first damn half for both teams. Let them play. Let the players decide the game. Don't let them get in foul trouble and all this crazy stuff where everybody's going into the foul. Everybody's going into halftime with 2 fouls. Let it play out a little bit. Call the fouls as you need to call them. But if we get one of those officials tomorrow that's whistle happy, we're going to be in trouble, because if they're going to call ticky-tack things down low with Ladie, we're just going to get eaten alive. We have nothing. We're going to have to be forced to play somebody, that doesn't play in the post or something like that. I still don't – I understand that we've talked about Forsling. He should be – you've got to – even though he may not be ready, you've got to at least try to put him in. You're not going to be able to run with Amzell and Mushila down low tomorrow against San Diego State. You're just not going to be able to do it. So, emotions, keeping all that in check, not giving away stupid fouls, letting the game get out of hand. That's kind of what I was talking about when I, reference the emotions, and making sure that you don't get too high and you don't get too low in a game like this tomorrow.
Somebody called into the morning show with Jeff and JJ, the opening drive on 610, and said they should play Sebastian Forsling for 30 minutes. I don't really buy that. I think that's a terrible, terrible thing to do. I think you need to just throw him in there and let him get some experience. Ed, somebody that we haven't seen play and that's kind of been MIA is Quentin Webb. And we were talking about how this team was going to be deep. And I don't, are we going to see Quentin Webb play anytime tomorrow? Because I think that would be very important, not only to the team, but for fans.
You know what? I got to say this. It's just a real quick comment on Forsling. It just depends on what the situation is. If they're up a couple of buckets, you might try them. You can't have them out there. That's been proven. Now, look, I'm a fan of big men. Dwayne, you play big, man. We've played some ball against each other. Big men. If the situation calls for it, maybe you could put him in. But he hurts you. That's why he's not in the game. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, think about it. You need size. They didn't go to him Tuesday when Amzil is getting cooked and then Nelly's getting cooked, and they didn't put him in. That tells you all you need to know. He's 7 feet. Now, I want him to go. I want him to go play, and I want him to succeed. He doesn't play big. That's the problem. You put him in for 4 possessions, he hurts you on 2. That's it's just, but you might maybe see him. I don't think I'm not closing the door on Forsling. Let's go to Webb. We had him on this summer before the season. I was really excited to talk to him because Coach Pitino said he does whatever it took. He'll play whatever position. He said it on the podcast. I'll play the 4, I'll play the 5, I'll do whatever. Lifted weights, got the shots up, was working out hard this summer. I thought we were going to see a lot more of him. I really did. He played early on, and then all of a sudden his time is not there anymore. Now tomorrow things aren't going so good, and that's Dwayne and Rick, you know this. Sometimes you go to Coach Segura would do that, Rick. Hey, let's try another way. Let's maybe the coaches have to talk about if this isn't working, we have to try something else. We lost our last game. This one's a must win. How's he practice? I think that's another thing too. How's Quentin Webb been practicing? That's something that's always looked at by coaches. So I think there is a chance you might see him if things, maybe even if things that are going good, maybe you give him a shot, give him a couple of minutes, see what he does out there. The other guy I want to mention again, we forget about too, is Baker, Jamal Baker. How many shots has he gotten up the last couple of games? We don't shoot many threes. We don't make any threes. We brought him in to shoot threes, and he doesn't even get to shoot them. So that's a guy I think tomorrow. Hopefully he gets 5 to 8 shots. I'd be surprised if he does, but they need to get him some looks. That's what they brought him in for. So that's my quick opinions on those.
For me, I just wanted to say, I think those 2 guys' roles really changed, right? Because Mash and House got healthy. Those guys were playing more minutes. Baker was even starting and, making and taking threes. But I think obviously the rotation has tightened up, and Webb is just got pushed out since Mash is back. It seems like to me, there's just too many guards right now.
Yeah.
I've said that I think there are too many cooks in the kitchen. And I had Ed, you had alluded to it. What is Jamal Baker Jr.'s role going to be? And I thought I had said this, he's an X factor and this team will really thrive if he's playing well. And Jacob said it the other night, over 3.5 just shot attempts from 3, and he took 2. So, if you were betting the under, there you go. I mean, I don't understand. I look at that box score from the other night against UNLV, and it's like it looks like it. We've mentioned that it's deja vu from last year. I just thought they were going to be rotating these guys in and out, and it was going to be, again, I had mentioned chemistry, how important it was going to be, but I felt if you got these guys rolling in and out, it was going to be like, firing at all cylinders. And I don't know. It's just weird to me. Jake, you didn't happen to mention, the defensive strategy. I know that's something that you had pinpointed out. Just your thoughts on that and what they're going to do.
Yeah, as far as UNM or as far as San Diego State on that one?
UNM probably.
Yeah, UNM. We were alluding to it earlier with, what Dwayne and Ed and Ricky were hitting on, which was, doubling the posts and making it not as easy. They're going to have to do that tomorrow. But I think something that might be, to their advantage tomorrow is if they can double the D successfully early, what they were kind of doing with UNLV might work against San Diego State as long as you close out on the 3-pointer a little more aggressive than what they were doing in the UNLV game. You're going to need to force and bait them into shooting threes because their guards, even though they don't make a ton of them, they still shoot them. And if, in a game like tomorrow, we would much rather them take the outside shot than have Ladie dumping in 5-footers, left and right, because we've seen that nobody can stop it. He's rated the 3rd highest player on Ken Palm this year, the 3rd highest rated player in all of college basketball. So he's efficient. He's good. When he gets it down there, he makes it, but you have to start baiting these guys into taking some threes. And if you watched a lot of their games, you could watch UC Irvine, you could watch San Jose State. They don't shoot the 3 well. And if you can get them to get into that game where they need to, if we could get them down in this game and force them to take some outside shots and get them a little uncomfortable down low, that's what we really need from them. Because like we were saying, they're 32%. They make 1 of 3 on average. And, it's a tough place to play. So I think it's going to benefit them tomorrow to really try and kind of bait them. Like we were talking about with us, you can see teams, they leave Amzo a little open to give them a little space, right? and then he figures, oh, this is my shot, right? I got a little bit of space, I'm going to take it. And you've got to bait them into some of those, because with the percentages that show, it would benefit us to do that. So I'm hoping that tomorrow they do a little bit of that and bait them into shooting some threes. But like Dwayne was saying, definitely close out better when you're doing that, because it could be super effective if they could run that effectively.
I think one of the things that has shocked me is Jaden Ledie's stats. 22, he averages 22 a game. And I do dish out numbers on this podcast. I'm not, to me, it's not the whole story. It's a give and take. It's a two-way street. It's catch 22. It is the whole story and it isn't the whole story, but his numbers to me, 22 points a game. He averages almost 9 rebounds a game. And there's been, I think, Trone from Aztec Breakdown, Trone Johnson had mentioned it, that Lamont Butler's kind of hurt. And his numbers don't really pop off or jump off the page. Obviously, Reese Waters, the transfer from USC, has been excellent. But Jaden Ledie's numbers, 22, 8, and a steal a game and an assist, almost 2 assists a game. The one thing that strikes me is his shot, his free throw. And I'm not breaking rubber bands over here, but it's his shot to me looks like really, really like painful to watch. Like it's almost Sean Marion and Shaq-esque. And he's 73%. With as much San Diego State basketball as I've watched this year, I've seen him missed 1 free throw, and it was against San Jose State the other night. I don't know who laughed there. I'm sorry. I was looking at the stats. It might've been Dwayne, but if you're chuckling at the free throw, I mean, I'm the farthest thing from a basketball player. I was a half-ass second baseman, as I always say. But I guess I'll put you on the spot there and kind of transitioning. What does UNM have to do tomorrow to win? Straight up.
Well, tomorrow's going to be an interesting game because they're going to have to put their best athletes on the floor. You guys were talking about Webb earlier. Webb, to me, is one of those athletes. And what I like about Webb is that Webb will play hard without getting the basketball. You don't have to run plays for him. He will still play hard. He plays intense on both ends of the floor. I kind of like it sometimes when there's 4 players on the floor that are designated scorers, or 3 players on the floor that are designated scorers, along with 1 or 2 other just solid defenders, because they're going to get those loose balls. They're going to get those 50-50s. They're going to do the ugly work that, let's say, MASH won't do. And in UNM's defense, they've had long stretches where they haven't had that senior leadership. They didn't have MASH for 6 or 7 games. They didn't have House for 5 or 6 games. So this team is still trying to gel. They're still trying to find a way to put together a solid team. The rotation's messed up because MASH was out so long. I thought that UNM actually got better with him not there. That team was a deeper team. And as you guys were saying, we were hoping that they would maybe rotate more players, as Rick was saying. They just have to put the best athletes on the floor, commit to what they're doing, pass the basketball, get some easy baskets. I haven't seen any of the lobs that I saw maybe a few years ago when we had the kid that passed away, Tovar, and the other kid, where they would throw really nice lob passes. They don't really set screens off the ball, not on a regular basis. So they've just got to play better team basketball. And they've got to all bring the energy at the same time. And I don't think you do that with 5 offensive players on the floor. I think you do that with 5 players, and some of them are willing to commit to the dirty work, because that's what it's going to take to beat the San Diego States, the Colorado States, the Utah States. You have to have 5 guys that are committed and to play better help defense. I was watching the Colorado State game, and I can't remember the big kid's name, but he did everything he wanted to do. Where was the help defense? Is somebody stopping him from turning? We know which way he wants to go. They've got to play better help defense. They've got to play with more energy, and they've got to play together.
J. Allen Tovar last year, and that poor kid that ended up in a coma. We were talking about that the other day, and we forgot his name.
Jethro Muskinen.
Yeah, Jethro Muskinen. That's right. Yes. J. Allen Tovar, as far as depth last year, and he transferred I don't know how many times. So I whatever he's going through, that's rough. But then again, that was a year ago. I think he would have helped the depth last year. You know, this is, as I've mentioned on, I got to do that again, but as far as this game goes and the national exposure and what it's seen since the last week and the advertising on CBS, this game is on CBS nationally. In the old days, you would just be able to turn this on and watch this on CBS. A company that used to pay me to watch football and basketball is great. You can hear it on the Lobo Radio Network. And as I mentioned, I'm going to go to, before I do that, Rick, you had brought up something, and I didn't even play this to start the podcast, but here it is in all of its glory. Whoops.
In the backcourt with them. Go to the rim. Now you're up top. 4 to go. Butler. Go to the rim. 2 to go. Butler has to put it up for the win. Butler sinks it at the buzzer. And he is mobbed by his team. The officials will take one more look. Wow. But Lamont Butler, did the miracle come in time?
Wow, what a shot. What a shot. My goodness.
We had Lamont Butler on at Mountain West Conference Media Days, and he said that was the harder shot than sending his team to the national title game in the Final Four. But there's that, and the pit atmosphere, which is something that Rick had mentioned, and I'll go to Ed on this as well. This is going to be a madhouse tomorrow, especially on national. The game's sold out, and it's a big deal here, even though the city's gotten a lot bigger. I expect, full insanity tomorrow, and this is a team that can suck the energy right out of this place. And I think Dwayne and Ed had attested to it. The physicality, Jacob, you talked about that maybe San Diego State would have to start shooting threes. I'm going to go to our friend Kurt Roth, who we've had on this, the president, owner, co-founder. I know he owns 505 Sports Venture, the NIL collective guy, 505 Sports Venture Foundation. And last year, he has always referred to San Diego State, and I was jokingly calling them playing, he called them a hockey team, and I referred to them as the New York Islanders. But as far as the atmosphere, Rick, goes, you were the person who mentioned it. They're trying to promote this stripe out with red and white. I wish they were as much as we knock UNM for this, I wish they were providing T-shirts. But I mean, I know the answer, but what kind of, I'm really messing up tonight. I'm hitting mute when I'm still talking. What kind of environment do you expect tomorrow? And I already know the answer.
It's going to be electric there. I've been lucky enough to go to all kinds of sporting events over my lifetime, big NFL games, the Masters, sold out games in Oracle Arena with the Warriors and their heyday. And I can tell you the pit gets just as loud and as electric as Oracle Arena or any of the other venues I've been, blessed to go to. And, over the past 10 years, I don't think we've seen it hit the levels that it should. And listening to the Aztec breakdown, I was listening to some of their early stuff, and they're hoping that we reach levels so that we can be that competitor with them in the conference. Like we were saying yesterday, San Diego State wants a rival. And what better way to show that on national TV in that environment? It's been 26 years now since Royce Olney hit the shot against Utah. I was there 12 years old, where he made the steal and then banked in a three-pointer against Andre Miller and Michael Doliak. The pit just blew up, and I'll remember that for the rest of my life. And I think that might be when I fell in love with basketball. So the atmosphere there is just something you can't replicate easily. And I can't wait to show it off for the country.
I didn't want to steal your steam, but I think that was another national runner-up in Utah. I don't know if that was 97. That might have been 97, but they were the national runner-up. They lost to Tubby Smith in Kentucky in 98. But
and
yeah,
I guess
that's a cool shot.
Also, I was lucky enough to work, for Lobo Sports Properties, and during the Tony Snell, Greenwood, Alex Kirk, and Bairstow years, and I'm sure they had some sellouts during that time, and I was able to be in the ramp and on the court, and there's nothing like being there. So you guys are lucky if you get to be there tomorrow.
No, I've been lucky to see a lot of events. I was at a Jets game against Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots. And it was the last time that the Patriots, up until this last Sunday, that the Jets had beaten the Patriots. And Ryan Fitzpatrick had Eric Decker on a walk-off. And I'm a New York Football Giants fan. I break the code. That was electric. I've been to an NFL wildcard game. I've been to an MLB All-Star game. The pit's up there, and it's one of the things I defend. Ed, I'm rolling with you. And Eric, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. What do you expect out of the pit? I know your answer as well.
I've watched games there. I can't say I went to a game in 1970, but I've watched games there for many years. Was there when Georgetown played. Number one, Georgetown with Patrick Ewing came in to play UNM, and I never heard the pit louder. I remember when Michael Cooper and Marvin Johnson, and they were ranked number 4, and they played Syracuse that one night in the Lobo Invitational. And that place, those media seats belonged to the students at that time. So I've seen some unbelievable pit games, unbelievable. And tomorrow is going to be hopefully that kind of atmosphere. I think Rick's right. We haven't seen it rise to that level of the past, but maybe we can see it again. Again, the pit changed when they took the mezzanine out. That took away 3,000 seats. Hunter Green was of the opinion. I remember him telling me, "Hey, they should have just built a new one, for $60 million." But the pit has that magic. The pit is the pit. Right? It's always going to be the pit, and an unbelievable atmosphere that I've seen so many great games there. And when the Lobo fans, gosh, when they're in full throat, it's an amazing thing to see. And I think it does shake up the other team a little bit. But we mentioned this: San Diego State went on a tournament run last year. They're not going to be shook by that. But we'd love to see it as fans of New Mexico, because that thing means things are going good. So I'm excited to hear that atmosphere tomorrow.
And I apologize. I had in the ticker, I had UNLV's net and Ken Palm from the other night. Thanks for pointing that out, Jacob. Their net, and I just added it there, their net is 19. Their Ken Palm is 21. UNM's net is 41. Ken Palm 44. All right, to the betting aspect, Jacob, I'm going to you. UNM minus, it's jumped. UNM minus 3.5, over under 150. UNM's money line is minus 159. You are a betting man. We both are. I don't know if you'll necessarily bet the game, but let's say you're an outsider looking in. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a must win for UNM. I know we don't like to call it that, but if you lose this game and then you have to reload and play Utah State Tuesday night, and you're 1-3 in conference with your back up against 1-4, it could start spiraling, unfolding quickly. And so for me, I think this, and I'm not trying to be a homer here, because me, I will tell you straight how it is. I think this is as much of a win as a must-win game as we've had in a long time. So I think they're going to come out, they're going to be ready tomorrow. It's not like they're 3-0 and they're playing for, a perfect conference record or first place or anything like that. I think they should be relaxed. And to be honest with you, San Diego State has played a lot of close games this year, in games that they shouldn't have been close in. So if you get them in that environment, get them in a sold out, UNM environment, I think we could, as long as the stretch of the second half is going to be super important. We've talked about it, coming out of halftime, making adjustments. If they can go into half, they've always played one good half this year. If they can play a good half in the first half, come out and replicate that in the second half, I think they can cover. I would have liked to see 2.5, but if it's 3.5 now, I still think they could cover the 3.5, because this is much more of a needed win from our side than it is San Diego State. So I'm hoping that they're playing, the basketball tomorrow that we've seen them play before, where they need to win, and they play smart, and ultimately that crowd comes into helping us get over that hump.
I think over 150 is probably a good bet. The San Diego State team doesn't play much defense. Ed, all right, I'm going to roll down to you a prediction. And then I'll give mine, and then Rick. Oh, sorry, Ed. I had you on mute there.
Okay, no, you know what? I've wrestled with this one. After New Mexico did not play well on Tuesday night, somebody said online the other night that I was having a discussion about the Lobos, and this guy says, "Oh, they'll be fine. They're going to be fine." And he said that a couple of games ago when they didn't play well. And there was nothing about the performance on Tuesday that says they'll be fine to me. They've got a lot of stuff to work on. I think the other thing that Jeff Grammer wrote about is they've taken away that pick and roll from Dent to top, and that it works so well. So defenses are concentrating on that now. They're going to have to find a way to manufacture points. They struggle in a half-court offense. And a real quick point I want to make is I think before the season started, Coach Pitino figured, hey, I've got Mash and I've got House, two all-conference returning starters. They averaged 20 points a game last year. Hunter Green told me they won't average 20 before the season. And he was right. So those injuries started, and and then you've got Washington and Dent. All of a sudden, they're playing really good with those two. And I think Coach Pitino had figured, hey, I can wait for Washington to develop. Dent's, we'll break them in easily. And that didn't happen. And so I think the chemistry is kind of a little bit, all those guards have to have the ball. They're that kind of tandem. And we're not seeing a lot of ball movement, ball reversals. Dwayne, you mentioned the defense. They've got to buy in. There's got to be defensive buy-in. Dwayne, you know that, man. There's got to be a defensive buy-in when they need to stop. You've coached, you played, you know that. So do you, Rick. Coach Segura would emphasize defense. That guy's one of the best defensive coaches I've ever seen. No doubt about it. Tomorrow, you know what? It's real tough for me to go against the Lobos. It really is. I'm going to say New Mexico comes out the 2-point win. I'm betting, that's my heart. So that's what I'll say. New Mexico by 2.
Dwayne, I'm going to go to you. You started off and stole my thunder.
I'm so sorry.
No. I'm joking there. I'm making fun of myself. Just what do you think? I think I kind of already asked you your prediction, but I'm going to go back to you again.
I think it comes down to last possession. Let me just say this. The odds makers obviously believe that the Lobos don't fear San Diego State. That's why they're favored to win this game. And I like that, being a Lobo, a UNM graduate. I like the 2-point game. Lobos win by 2.
Rick, I'm going over to you.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to turnovers, and are we able to, 1, protect the ball, and then 2, turn them over so we can get our offense rolling. It seems our best games have been when we've turned them over a lot. Like Dwayne said, it's going to be close, but I think we pull this one out. If you look around the conference, all the top 6-7 teams have not lost a home game yet. So it's really which of these top teams in the conference is going to win a road game first, and hopefully it's not San Diego State. So I'm going with UNM to win by 4.
Boise State is giving Nevada a hard time right now in the second half. And I keep forgetting that Nevada is 15-1. I accidentally, I try to be objective as I can. I don't wear any red. I'm a New Jersey Devils fan. I don't even wear any red when I go to Lobo games or I'm on here. And the other night I turned my hat around. I grew up going to La Jolla, California. My dad was sick and he went and saw a specialist just north of San Diego in La Jolla, California. So I purposely did this tonight to ride with the Dutch orange and blue. Not that anybody critiques me, but I had the old 90s San Diego Padres hat on, and I grew up going to San Diego Padres games, and Tony Gwynn is my favorite baseball player of all time. I can rip off that 1998 pennant-winning San Diego Padres team that got swept by the dominant 98 Yankees, which many people consider the greatest baseball team of all time. And as I wear this Mets hat, I say au contraire. And that's the 86 Mets. If you filled them up with liquor and cocaine, they'd wipe the floor with the 98 Yankees. And I stand by that today. And I know that there are probably 1960s Yankee teams that were better. But as far as the best team ever in New York is the 86 Mets. And I'm sure Keith Hernandez would happily say that on SNY, Jake. So I didn't do that on purpose. It wasn't like if there's, the internet's full of conspiracy theories and I'm not trying to have an ego. No, I have that hat because I love Tony Gwynn. I have tons of Tony Gwynn memorabilia. But I do like San Diego State. I do like Brian Dutcher, and I do like when the conference is good, especially what's going on right now with Boise and State, Nevada. And I've been glancing over there at the podcast. I wasn't, or glancing over there at the game on another TV. I wasn't trying to ignore you guys, but I think that this is a major crossroads, and we might be sitting here tomorrow afternoon or Sunday morning when we decide to do the recap. Major crossroads. There's an episode of Band of Brothers entitled Crossroads, and it's basically essentially we figured out that the United States has won the war, and this is my magnum opus of this podcast. I picked UNM the other night, and boy, did I look like I'm limiting myself to one curse word per episode. I look like a major dipshit. And I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. San Diego State to win outright. San Diego State to the plus, obviously plus 3.5 if they're winning outright. They are not scared. And I think things are going to spiral out of control for UNM quickly. I thought they were a better team than UNLV. I didn't watch UNLV much. Obviously, they beat the you-know-what out of Creighton. They look like an NBA team. They look like an NBA team against a JV team the other night. I was totally starstruck. We had went live, and then I sat down to watch it, and I was completely dumbfounded by what I was watching. And Kevin Kruger's on the hot seat, and they were a 500 team, and they waxed UNM in the second half. But I will say this, if I don't expect UNM to win the next 2 games at all. If they do, we're having a whole new conversation, and I will eat crow. But for right now, this is a team looking down the rabbit hole of being 1-4 in conference and not even an NIT bid. So that's my 2 cents. Mr. Dwayne Rogers, sorry for that you had to listen to that, and we're all UNM grads here, but Ed reached out to you. I was like, Ed, we need somebody last minute. I wanted a different perspective, and I tell this to my guests all the time. It was a pleasure. Somebody that has more X's and O's insight. These for like 5 lifetimes. The 4 guys that are on here right now. For as far as basketball goes, I would just want to send a major thank you and a much appreciation. And Eric couldn't join us tonight, who's my co-founder in this. We really appreciate your time, and hey, Happy New Year.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, guys. It's been fun.
And to the gentleman from the Bay Don't Play, Richard Thompson, we'll probably be texting tomorrow, but as always, man, I thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne, for joining us. And I just want to say, this show's really grown over the past few months. So thanks to all the listeners, commenting, spewing their basketball X's and O's in the comments. It's just great to read. So thanks to everyone listening.
And to at NM, and by the way, at R Thompson 1050, at NM Sports Capper on the X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, Mr. Jacob Neff. Hey man, thanks for joining us, and thank you for proofreading the writer's stupid ticker.
Yeah, no, that's what we're all here for. No, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for having us on. Big game tomorrow. Can't wait for it. I'm sure we'll all be texting, giving our takes. And as Rick said, continue to engage us on Twitter. We love to talk during the game, give our thoughts, and love to hear what everybody else says. So appreciate that.
And a Lobo fan since 1970, and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. I know you're in Silver City. I guess you're recording the game tomorrow. I don't know how you're going to watch it tomorrow because you're calling a game at noon, right?
I am, so I'll have to record it. But yeah, I'll be definitely paying attention to the score online for sure.
And I didn't hit changing sponsors quite frequently. I want to thank Abrazo Homes and Turquoise Desert Tap Room. I didn't add that at the beginning, and it's much appreciated for everything that they do. And I just would also like to thank, and I lost my train of thought there. Anyway, no, what I was going to say is YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, give us a like, follow us on Twitter at the Pit Press NM. Find us on Instagram at the Pit Press NM, and everybody enjoy the game. Trying to keep this under an hour. Hopefully you can listen to the way on the pit. But to everybody, enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you post-game San Diego State, and Gary, get you ready for Utah State. So thanks, everybody. Enjoy the game.